Year.
You too.
Happy New Year. The practice report for injury-wise will come out. Probably a couple guys that won't practice all week. Maybe will play, maybe not. We'll see where we get to. But nothing of real note right now. So pretty standard from after the game. Same guys that didn't play, and same guys that didn't finish. So nothing new there. Go ahead.
Your decision, Brian, on who's starting at quarterback and how have you figured out how you want to divvy up the play time?
Yeah, I got a pretty good feel for it. I'll let you guys know at the end of the week once we get through practice. But they're splitting reps evenly right now, so they'll both be prepared and both be ready to play.
How did the team respond? When you made the announcement to them?
Normal. I think they all understand that we're letting those guys have a chance to compete and play, and they both have earned opportunities to play some more, and so I wanted to make sure they both had it.
Brian, earlier in the year, you had talked about kind of being in the learning process of having the system and trying to have guys fit into it versus maybe tailoring the system to certain players' skills.
Yeah.
At this point, where do you think you're at, or maybe what you've learned about that balance?
Oh, we always try to, as best we can, fit to whatever players we have, whatever their skill sets are. There's an adjustment and a learning process on what those look like. For me, to get a feel for guys, I think as the year's gone on, particularly, a guy like Calvin, I found a lot of things that I thought he really did well and tried to highlight those. Same things with the quarterbacks and with Tony Pollard and how we use Tajay. There's a lot of things I've learned about those guys as players and what they do well. So you try to highlight those as much as possible. Those are same thing in the run game with the run game scheme. What do we block well? What fits us best? We have all the ways to get to the run schemes that we need to. So all those things offensively, you work through all of it and you find what guys do well and how you can best feature those things. So I feel good about where we've gotten to. A lot of things that I think I learned along the way that helped put guys in better spots as the season went along, especially as I got to know the team better and know their strengths better. So things that I've always tried to do.
With a guy like Pollard, do you let recover a little bit there? Which is kind of the pro and con of bringing him back in to let him bang himself up again, as opposed to letting him continue on the road to recovery and start to get into the offseason healthy.
Yeah, it's going to be ultimately, if he's healthy enough to play and feels good to play, you let him go. And if he's not, then it's just like I did last week. It's my decision. If I feel like he's not in a position to be healthy enough to perform and play the way he needs to play, then we'll give him another week and get him into the offseason. So, but I think he wants to play. He feels pretty good today. So again, we'll see how the week goes. He hasn't practiced obviously in a long time, full practice. So we'll see.
A couple incentives there in reach with 2 touchdowns and maybe 83 yards. How much do those factor into your head to give a guy an opportunity to earn those? Yeah,
I'll be honest. I try to, when opportunities arise, is to give guys those chances. That's money on the table for them. I try to do as best I can to get them those things if it's possible. I'll never force it. I'll never go out of my way to do it. But I think especially a guy like Tony, has earned the right. If he wants to go and try to hit those markers, then I'll do my best to put him in that position. But can't make any promises. You can never say you're absolutely going to do it. But yeah, there's that comes up every year for guys over the years of my career, and you just try to be aware of it and help where you can, especially if they've earned something that close, where they're that close to being able to earn something like that. So yeah, that's certainly something that factors in.
If he can't go, do you consider it running back by committee, or do you think Julius could kind of handle a full workload there?
Yeah, Julius. If he can't go, and Tajay can't go, then yeah, it's Julius will take a bunch of it. Get a look at Josh Kelly too. He'll be up to play, and then to make sure we got enough backs on the roster for the game, we'll probably have to bring up Jabari. So those 3 guys would take the game as the backs, and Julius would take a good amount. But I'd like to see Josh carry the ball too, if that's the case.
Get himself in a position where he could go this week?
No, I don't think he'll be able to. Not all the way ready to go, but good 3 weeks of practice and chance to hit the offseason with some momentum for him, healthy, which is good. Be excited to see him.
In regards to go ahead, John. In regards to the quarterback situation, is there anything that you expect or hope to see maybe from Will in like half a game that he hasn't shown, that you haven't seen before?
As far as new, I'd like to see a turnover free and get rid of the ball and play on time and do all the things that we've talked about doing over the course of the year. So nothing different there. Just a chance for him to go compete and go play. I think is fair for him to be able to go do that again.
You've got a
mentioned you may just ride the hot hand, which maybe some people think maybe you'd alternate series with guys. Could that potentially be your scenario, or is that kind of remains to be seen?
Yeah, but I think if a guy's playing really well, I'll let him play. I'd hate to take a momentum off a player if he's doing really good and completing balls and moving the offense. I'm not just going to pull him out of there. But I do want both of them to play. So some of that'll be if they're really humming along and doing a great job, then I'll let them keep going. But they'll both play.
Brian, you've been asked a lot about like draft picks and draft stats. I know you can't worry about that, your players can. Would you like to see the NFL have some sort of lottery system to take this off the teams right now?
I'd never really thought about that. That's an interesting question. I hesitate to give an answer because I haven't thought through all that, but it'd be an interesting conversation certainly on what that would look like, because it does put a lot of people in a lot of teams across the league, both in playoff position and not. That it does put you in some spots that you don't. I don't want to answer questions about this stuff. About draft picks when the season's not over yet. So yeah, it would certainly help me, but without researching it far enough, I'd hate to go out there and say, yeah, give us a lottery. But yeah, that's a good question.
Ranked highly in a couple of defensive categories, very highly. Do you look at those and say, okay, this defense is much improved from last year, or are there other stats too that you look at and say, hey, there's still a long way to go?
Yeah, I think there's things that we did improve in. There's areas of our defense I feel good about, both from a execution standpoint and a schematic standpoint. We'll look at all of it. There's certainly things that we have to get better at, namely some of our the red zone defense and things of that nature where we give it too many points. Whether they were put in those positions fairly or not is, you can debate that, but we need to be better stopping people down there. We'll look all through those things and try to find, all the areas that we can really improve our defense. And there's areas that matter, when you're going to be good against the pass if you're getting the ball run on you. So those things are give and take, and not every game is that way, but certainly things that we have to be better at all the way around. And numbers tell a story. They definitely paint a picture. They tell you where you have some strengths, but ultimately it's you can find a lot of numbers, right? That's not always going to paint the fullest picture. And I think there's definitely things we got to get better on across the board. I mean, because we won 3 games, so for me to sit here and say everything's been good enough, it's not been. But there are some things I'm encouraged by, and there's some things we got to get better at.
Competed against Denard Wilson involved defense, and now having him on your staff, what are some of the things that you've seen carry over from what you saw that gave you so many problems before to now?
Well, I do think the way that the secondary is coached, the way that they pick up pass game concepts, if you will, the details of the scheme and how they play it are all things that I see. I see it giving a lot of teams problems throwing the football. And then the way that he's coached those guys stepping in the secondary. We've had a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup, and guys stepping up and having to make plays, and they've all done a pretty good job when asked to do the job. And that's a lot of that to me goes on the coaching with Denard and Steve Jackson and Chris Harris. I think those guys have done a really nice job keeping the continuity of the scheme together as well when guys have come out. But I believe very much in how that scheme is taught. I believe in how they deploy it and what it's produced. There's a lot of really good things about it, and we got to keep getting better at it, keep getting better at the details within it, and keep adding players to come bring it to life. And I think that's the biggest key. And but really a lot of good things that I've seen and believe in about the defense that I like this year, and that we just got to keep coming.
There's a lot of conversation weekly about flushing the result, good or bad, within 24 hours. Then you get to the last game, everybody talks about, this is going to have a lot of momentum for us if we win this, it's going to carry it through the season. Do you believe in that, and why should the last game be regarded as differently than the 16 before?
Yeah, there's a feel-good aspect to finishing the season on a positive note. Does it ultimately propel you any differently? The reality is probably not. Now you win 3 or 4 of them along those lines, that feels a little different. But yeah, ultimately one game isn't going to make or break what you do or how you do it in the off season, or where you got to get better or how you have to fix your issues. So yeah, it feels good, and you want to end the season on a win. That's the idea. But yeah, I mean, a one singular game at the end of the day is different to me than if you win 3 or 4 in a row to finish the season. That's a little bit different talking point. But yeah, you always want to finish feeling good.
It's a big deal for Amy, again, with these uniforms and everything.
I think I think it matters anytime you're playing a division team, regardless of record and regardless of where you're at in the season. I do think it's a game that you want to win for divisional reasons. The team you got to play again twice next year. This is my first time with the uniforms. I think they look great. I'm excited to wear them. I don't know. I can't speak to the importance of that to anybody else, but I'm excited. I think they look great and it'd be fun to see them on the players.
Coach, did you see Nick Volk being available possibly this Sunday, or do you shut him down? And maybe the same with the Dylan Radins case with his shoulder.
Yeah, both those guys have a chance to play. We're going to see where Nick's at. He usually kicks on Thursday, so he'll kick tomorrow with a week off. Has felt better. Again, that's a wait and see. We have Matthew on the practice squad, Matthew Wright, so if we need to make the move, we can. But Dylan is actually feeling pretty good. He participated in practice today, so we'll see where that's at. I have no intention of shutting him down. If they're able to play, I think they're going to play.
What's the difficulty for prepping for a week where you're not sold on what the other team's going to do personnel-wise? I know they say they're going to kind of wait and see how the game feels. Does that add extra difficulty game planning?
Not really. I think you always assume that all their best players will be out there, and they got some good ones that you have to account for, and then if they're not, they're not. Everything about it is preparing to see what you've seen on tape from the weeks before, and you do your best to put the plan in place. And if they got two really good edge players, they got good linebackers, they do a good job on defense. So you got to make sure you're on top of who's going to play, and then if they don't, they don't, and you just react accordingly. But you always prep for whatever they've shown you last and what they look like, and if they have any changes, that's up to them, and we'll be ready to play.
They've got a player who's available to come back this week from suspension in Aziz Al-Sher. Have you been able to tell how different that defense looks without him?
Yeah, he's a major player for them in the middle. I mean, he's sort of the heartbeat of the middle of the defense. Everybody that I didn't know Aziz when he was here, but everyone that talked about him spoke of his leadership ability and his ability to be that foundational player in the middle of the defense. And when you miss a guy like that, you feel it. You feel that on defense. You miss the leadership. They've got some guys that have stepped up and played pretty good for them, but anytime you miss that player for a particular amount of time, you're going to notice it. And I'm sure they're thrilled to have him back and ready to roll, and especially as they're getting ready for the playoffs.
Can you coach this game differently?
Do I coach it differently?
Can you take more chances?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to lose if you really want to, if you want to run a bunch of reverses and some trick plays and throw the ball on the field every play. You can do all kinds of stuff if you wanted to. I probably won't do all that. I'll still try to coach it in the same manner that it requires for us to try to win a game, and still be smart about how we call the game and all that. But yeah, you definitely could do whatever you wanted if you got to this point in the season. But I also won't be disrespectful to the game of football either. I won't do anything like that. But we'll prepare and play and do as best we can. Thanks, guys.